Can you guys guess the number of scams that took place in our country from 2004 to 2014 during the Congress rule, which was led by our former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh? Here are a few options. Option A 3, Option B 6, Option C 10, Option D 15. We'll get to this question at the end of the video. Before you proceed, get yourself a notebook because this video is going to be a mini economic lecture for all of you. In this video, we'll be discussing about the white paper.
On Thursday, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tabled a white paper.
A white paper on the economy during the previous Congress-led UPA government.
This is a white paper on the Indian economy and its impact on the lives of the people of India,
which is an official document released by the BJP government. This gives us a view on how Congress government has destroyed our economy from 2004 to 2014.
2014 में जो चीजें जब मेरे सामने आई मैं चौंक गया था। अर्थव्यवस्था हर प्रकार से बहुत गंभीर स्थिति में थी।
देश को ऐसे गंभीर अवस्था में खड़े रख के चले गए।
I don't know what they're talking about. We had better economic growth, we had pulled more people out of poverty, and all the numbers are reliable, internationally verified numbers.
स्कैंडल के ऊपर स्कैंडल चलते रहे। कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स का इतना फ्लॉप शो हुआ, भारत का बदनाम हुआ पूरे दुनिया में।
The white paper points out every economical blunder initiated by the Congress from 2004 to 2014 and also gives a view on how BJP government corrected these blunders and helped India move from fragile 5 economy to top 5 economies in the world. Again, whatever we say in this video are the facts picked from white paper. It is not our personal opinion. Firstly, the BJP government states that when Congress government came to power in the year 2004, they inherited a healthy economy which was growing at 8%. The industry and the service economy was growing at 7%. And the agricultural sector of India was growing at 9% in 2004. The white paper also says that the Congress government never fails to take credit for the 1991 reforms, but they themselves abandoned it after coming to the power in the year 2004. The price stability was severely harmed by the Congress government. If you guys look at the chart displayed on the screen, you guys will know that inflation was not under control. For those of you who do not know what inflation is, here is an example. Imagine Sam gets a pocket money of 1000 rupees in which he spends 500 rupees on junk food and saves up the other 500 for future parties. Now also imagine the same junk food's price gets increased to 1200 rupees. But at the same time, Sam's pocket money also gets increased to 1500 rupees. But now he's only saving 300 rupees. This reduction in his saving from rupees 500 to 300 is because of inflation. Basically, the rate at which your income increases must be compared to the rate at which the price of goods increases. If it is opposite, then that means the inflation is high.
महंगाई देश की वो कड़वी हकीकत है जिसे हर आम और खास परेशान है।
जब से कांग्रेस लेडी यूपीए गवर्नमेंट आई है
40,000 करोड़ रुपए का अनाज बर्बाद हो रहा है प्रति साल।
रेट ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन तेजी के साथ बढ़ने का सिलसिला जारी है।
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, आप महंगाई कम कर पाओ या न कर पाओ, कम से कम अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जहां छोड़ के गए थे वहां तो ला करके रख दो।
Inflation is said to be healthy if it's around 3%, but it was approximately 4% when the Congress government came to power in 2004. But as you can see in this chart, it had increased to 9.4% when the Congress government ended its governance. If you take an average, the inflation was in double digits over the 5-year period from 2010 to 2014, and an overall average from 2004 to 2014 was 8.2%. But if you see the average inflation from 14 to 24 while the BJP government was in power, it was only 5%. The second point is the banking crisis and the mismanagement of banks under the Congress rule from 2004 to 2014. To understand this, we must know GNPA ratio. GNPA is nothing but gross non-performing asset ratio. Don't worry, it's not as complex as it sounds. We can understand this by using a small example. Imagine a bank gives loan to 100 people and turns out that 20 of them are unable to repay and fail to repay the loan amount. This means the GNPA ratio now is 20%. Now the white paper says that when the BJP government came to power in 1999, the GNPA ratio was 16%. And when they handed over the government to the Congress party in the year 2004, GNPA ratio was 7.8%, which was a significant reduction of 8%. But in 2013, after the 10-year rule of Congress party, the GNPA ratio had increased to 12.3%. On top of these, many more loans accounting up to 3.8 lakh crore rupees was not registered. If this was considered, then the GNPA ratio would go till 20%. So this eventually means that the Congress party was not successful in controlling the bad debts in the country. This GNPA ratio under the BJP government from 14 to 24 is only 3.2%, which is a 4 times reduction from the previous government. The third point is ECB, external commercial borrowing. This basically means how much money we borrow from the other countries. This was increasing at the rate of 21% every year from 2004 to 2014, whereas in the past 9 years it has only grown by 4.5% every year. Because of the increase in ECB, our rupee value decreased by 36% against the US dollars in 2011 and 2013. The Feds announced that they shall reduce the printing of US dollars in 2013 and 21. The rupee depreciated differently in both the years. In 2013, it decreased by approximately 15%, but during the BJP rule, it only reduced by 0.7%. Before moving on, let's understand what is Forex Reserve. It is literally the savings of our country, but we do not save the money in our currency because if one day our economy collapses, the currency value will also collapse. So to avoid this, we save it in gold or US dollars or any other country's stable currency. The Forex Reserve was somewhere around $294 billion in 2011, but it got reduced to $256 billion by 2013. That was equal to 6 months of our imports. But when the Congress government came to power in 2004, this amount was equal to finance our imports for 17 months. Forex Reserve to external debt ratio. That means our savings divided by the loan taken from other countries. This must be around 150%, but 100% is also fine. At 2011, it was 95.8%, but it got reduced to 68% in 2014, which is actually a dangerous thing for our economy. To tackle this situation, the Congress government implemented the famous FCNR, which is Foreign Currency Non-Resident Deposit Window for NRIs, which was actually a call for help. This was implemented because we had less Forex reserves. FCNR means our country goes and asks help from the NRIs to deposit their money in the Indian banks. It was a form of loan our country took from its own citizens who were earning in foreign currencies. In 1991, the Congress government was sanctioned $2.2 billion of loan amount by the IMF. But if we compare this $2.2 billion loan amount with the loan taken from the NRIs, the NRI loan amount was 12 times more than the IMF bailout, which means it was $26 billion. To be precise, our country had borrowed $26 billion from its people who were earning in foreign currencies. But all of this loan amount was taken care by the BJP government in 2016 without any problem. And the BJP also states that 2008 financial crisis was not so bad for our country compared to European and North American countries.
It was one of the most profound events in generations with huge consequences for the American economy and households throughout the country.
Lehman Brothers is going bankrupt. Shares in Lehman Brothers have plummeted more than 80% in 2008 alone.
We saw that in September of 2008 like we've never seen it before in financial markets.
Those people who had purchased beyond their capacity are suffering.
As you can see, it's stable. In 2008, during the crisis, India's growth slowed down to 3.1%, unlike the developed countries, which was slowed down to 1 and less than 1%. And the upcoming years, it was back on track to 8.5%. But if you see, the developed countries' growth went lower than 1% into negatives. Before we move on, we have to learn about two new concepts, that is fiscal deficit and revenue deficit. Fiscal deficit refers to the difference between government's total revenue and its total expenditure. Revenue deficit, on the other hand, focuses specifically on the difference between government's revenue receipts, mainly tax revenue, and its revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure means day-to-day expenses like salaries, subsidies, interest payments, etc. The ratio of India's GFD to GDP was at least 4.5% of GDP in 3 out of 6 years, between 5% and 6% in 1 year, and more than 6% in 2 years. The revenue deficit increased 4 times, from 1% of GDP in 2008 to 4.5% in 2012. Top of all these, the government gave subsidies in 2013 to oil marketing companies, fertilizer companies, and Food Corporation of India. Total amount was around 1.9 lakh crore rupees in 5 years, from 2006 to 2010. If you look at the fiscal numbers, everything from fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, and net market borrowings turned turned out to be more than our estimated budget. According to the Reserve Bank of India, the size of government's net marketing borrowing program increased nearly 9.7 times in 8 years. As we saw, the Congress party took huge loans. The white paper blames the Congress party for not utilizing the loan amount properly. To support this argument, take a look at this chart. As you can see, the capital expenditure from 2003 to 2004, while the BJP was in power, it was 31%. But in 2013 and 14, it was down to 16% during the Congress time. Then the current BJP government increased it to 28% by 2023 to 2024. The Congress spent more on revenue expenditure and less on capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure means spendings that do not give any long-term return. For example, paying salaries. Capital expenditure means the government spends on building dams, highways, airports, etc., which even after spending will generate money for the government in long term. The Congress government itself agreed to the Supreme Court saying that out of 40,000 kilometers of national highways built in India, they only built 16,000 kilometers of national highways, and the rest 24,000 kilometers of national highways was constructed by the BJP government from the year 1997 to 2002. In 2015, the highway construction speed was 12 km per day. But now, BJP government has increased it to 28 km per day.
एक्सप्रेस हाईवे, ग्रीन एक्सप्रेस हाईवे, एक्सिस कंट्रोल एक्सप्रेस हाईवे बन रहे हैं।
हिंदुस्तान का रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अमेरिका के बराबर होगा।
आप कश्मीर से लेकर कन्याकुमारी तक हम रोड बना रहे हैं। आप दिल्ली मुंबई हाईवे पे जाइए, अभी रतलाम तक अभी जल्दी इनॉग्रेशन के लिए तैयार है।
60 किलोमीटर के अंदर एक ही टोल नाका होगा, दूसरा होगा तो वो बंद किया जाएगा।
From 2004 to 2014, 94,000 crores of budget was left unspent, which was 6.5% of the total. It was allocated for government schemes, but from 2014 to 24, only 37,000 crores of budget was left unspent, which was less than 1% of our total budget. The white paper also blames the Congress party for only increasing the health expenditure by 5%, from 64% in 2005 to 69% by 2014. BJP also blamed the Congress party for waiving off 52,000 crore piece of debt, which is 0.9% of our GDP.
In February 2008, UPA 1 announced its biggest SOP for farmers.
The real game changer unveiled by the UPA was a 52,000 crore rupee farm loan relief scheme.
There are about 3 crore small and marginal farmers, and about 1 crore other farmers will benefit from the scheme.
A 52,280 crore rupees farm loan waiver for 3.5 crore small and marginal farmers.
For marginal farmers and small farmers, there will be a complete waiver of all loans of over 200.
This was an agricultural debt which was waived off by the Congress party. This move created difficulties for the farmers. The Congress was also slow in procurement of fighter aircrafts that never reached any conclusion. Even the decision to provide bulletproof jackets and night vision goggles for Indian Army soldiers was left hanging for years. There are many more scams listed in the white paper.
यूपीए गवर्नमेंट ने
इतने सारे घोटाले
भारत देश का भयंकर नुकसान किया।
टोटल लगाया तो 12 लाख करोड़ के बाद मैंने टोटल छोड़ दिया।
2014 के पहले खबरें क्या आती थी?
सत्यम घोटाला किसने किया? यूपीए। कॉमनवेल्थ घोटाला किसने किया? यूपीए। कोयला घोटाला किसने किया? यूपीए ने।
स्कैंडल के ऊपर स्कैंडल चलते रहे, देश को ऐसे गंभीर अवस्था में खड़े रख के चले गए।
इनसे सुधरने की मुझे कोई अपेक्षा नहीं है, वो जनता इनको सुधार देगी।
But the answer to the question mentioned earlier is 15 scams. BJP also takes credit for so many things such as implementation of Aadhaar card, implementation of GST, decreased power cuts in India, increasing in India's service exports by 95%, as the world's service exports is only 36%, increasing the Indian merchandise exports to 41% from 2014 to 2022, while the world's merchandise exports was only 31%, improving the sanitation by building better quality toilets in India, doubling the foreign direct investment from $305 billion to $600 billion, and the capital expenditure was also increased by 5 times. In 2013, Morgan Stanley published a report in which it stated that India comes under the fragile 5 economies in the world, which means an economy with emerging power but weak fundamentals. As per IMF, if there was no pandemic, we would be in the top 5 economies by 2022 itself, and by 2027, we would be the 3rd largest economy. Finally, the BJP takes credit for taking taking India from fragile 5 to top 5 economies in the world. Before we end this video, I just wanted to say that we have presented black paper and white paper with complete research and facts. Hope this will be helpful for you to vote. Do not cast your vote blindly. Make sure the person you're gonna vote is worth your vote. Thank you for watching this video. This is Samuel Phillips signing off.